All thanks and praises are due to Allah, whom we thank, seek for help, and invoke for forgiveness. We seek the refuge with Allah from the evils within ourselves and from our bad deeds. He whom Allah guides will never be misled, and he whom He misguides will never find one to guide him. I bear witness that there is no one worthy of worship except Allah, and that Muhammad is His servant and messenger. Having said that, O servants of Allah, when Allah Azza wa Jal created the universe, between all the planets that He created, He chose for us to live on planet Earth. And from all the angels that He created, He chose Jibreel to be the best of them. And from all the creations that Allah Azza wa Jal created, He chose the human beings. And from all of the human beings, He chose the best of them to be prophets. And from these prophets, He chose some to be messengers. And from these messengers, He chose 5 of them who are ulil azmi min ar-rusul, the ones that had strength in giving da'wah. And they were 5. Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam, Adam alayhi salam, Nuh alayhi salam, not Adam, Nuh alayhi salam, Ibrahim alayhi salam, Musa alayhi salam, and Isa alayhi salam. And from these 5, He chose one, which was the best out of them all, which was Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Muhammad ibn Abdullah alayhi salatu wassalam. And for us, we need to know who was our Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam, because he was sent in order for us to believe in him. So let us imagine, how did Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam look like? Please give me your heart and imagination in order to us to try to see how was Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam and how did Allah Azza wa Jal create him. First of all, his color was white mixed with redness. And his face was round. Yet it was more bright than the moon itself, as the Sahaba mentioned. His eyes were very big. And his eyes, the whiteness of the eye, was very, very white. Yet the color of his eyes was dark black. His height, he was not very tall, nor he was short. Between the tall people, he looks tall. He had medium height in order for everyone to have access to him. The tall one and the short one, they can speak to him easily. He had a long hair. And his hair was long and he used to braid it. And he always kept it long, yet when he went to Hajj, he shaved it all. He went bald. And his eyelashes were long. And his teeth were very, very white and bright when you look at him, because he used to always smile, alayhi salatu wassalam. His beard was very long and big. It used to cover his chest. And the Sahaba, when they used to look at him while he was reading the Quran, It used to move around because of how long it was. And he was, alayhi salatu wasalam, physically strong. His shoulders were big and broad. And he had a flat stomach. I don't have a flat stomach like him. I wish I could have one like him, alayhi salatu wasalam. And his chest hair, he had a line from his chest until his belly button, where was a line of hair that he had. And Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam, he never spoke too much, yet he never spoke too little. He spoke when it was needed, when it was necessary, and he spoke straight to the point. And Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam, he always had a warm and welcoming face. He used to always have a big smile, alayhi salatu wasalam. And when the Sahaba used to shake his hand, he would never take his hand out first. He would keep his hand in until they took their hand out. And that shows his manners and attitude, alayhi salatu wasalam. And when someone used to call him from behind, he wouldn't turn his neck, but rather he would turn all of his body and he would look at you with his shoulders to show you that you're an important person. And when Aisha al-Mu'mineen radiyallahu anha, they used to ask her, how was the characteristic of Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam? How was his behavior and attitude? She used to say that, do you guys read the Quran? They said, yes. She said, he was a walking Quran on earth. Alayhi salatu wassalam. And Rasulullah alayhi salatu wassalam, he was very brave and tough in the battlefield. The Sahaba used to say that whenever the battle used to get so hard and tough, and they wanted to take a small break, they would run behind the back of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in order for them to take a small breath from the battle. Yet he never stopped. He defended himself and his Sahaba and the Deen. Alayhi salatu wassalam. This man is the greatest human that was ever created on this earth. He is your prophet and my prophet. And the most amazing about him is that he used to love his ummah so much, even though that he did not see a lot of us, but he loved us so much. Each prophet was given by Allah Azza wa Jal one dua, that if you do say that dua, if you ask Allah for anything, just one thing, He would give it to you straight out. He would give it to that prophet straight out. And one of these is the dua that Nuh alayhi salam gave to Allah Azza wa Jal when he told him to destroy his people. And all of us know the story of how Allah sent water out of the earth and water from the skies in order for Allah Azza wa Jal to drown these people. So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was the only exception which he did not use his dua in the dunya. He kept his dua. But why did he keep it? And who did he keep it for? He kept it to his ummah, out of the love that he had for us. And when will he use that dua? He will use it on the Day of Judgment, when all of the people will be waiting in order for the judgment to start. The people will go to Adam alayhi salam and they will tell him, "Oh Adam, please intercede for us in front of Allah Azza wa Jal. And he would say, myself, myself, nafsi, nafsi. I have did a sin once in my life, and I can't face Allah Azza wa Jal with that sin that I have done. Go to someone else. They go to Nuh alayhi salam, and he says the same thing, nafsi, nafsi. They go to Ibrahim alayhi salam, to Musa, to Isa, and all of them reject it. Until Isa alayhi salam says, go to Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam. And all of the people, including me and you, will go to Rasulullah alayhi salatu wassalam and will ask him, O Muhammad, please intercede for us in front of Allah Azza wa Jal. And what do you think Rasulullah alayhi salatu wassalam, he will say? Ana laha. He will say, I am for it. I will go for it. And he goes to Allah Azza wa Jal. And he goes down in sujood in front of the arsh of Allah Azza wa Jal, in front of the throne of Allah Azza wa Jal. And he will praise Allah Azza wa Jal with praises that he has never have said before. And Allah Azza wa Jal will tell him, rise, O Muhammad, and ask me whatever you want. Intercede for people and I will accept your intercession. Do you see the love that Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam, he had for us? He went into a lot of hardships and suffering throughout his da'wah in order for us to be Muslims and to not go to hellfire. Yet through all of this suffering, he never used that dua. He had sabr, and he kept that dua for us in order for him to intercede for us on the Day of Judgment. So after you heard his love to us, how much do you love him? Do you remember him like the way that he used to remember us? Do you speak about him the way that he spoke about us in front of the Sahaba? And do you really want to see him like the way that he wanted to see us? What would you sacrifice in order to see Rasulullah alayhi salatu wassalam? Rasulullah alayhi salatu wassalam said in the authentic Hadith that there will be people after me that love me so much that they would sacrifice their money and their family in order for them to see me, to see Rasulullah alayhi salatu wassalam. What is more dear to us in this life, in this dunya, than our money and our family? These people will sacrifice their money and their family just to see Rasulullah alayhi salatu wassalam. We should have that love for Rasulullah alayhi salatu wassalam if we want complete iman. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said in the authentic hadith that you won't have complete iman unless you love me more than you love your own father and your own son and everyone in this earth. This is what I've said for now, and I will ask Allah to forgive me and you. All thanks and praises are due to Allah, and prayers and blessings be in the servants that He chose. We should love Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam more than our souls, because on the Day of Judgment, we cannot intercede for ourselves. but rather Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam will intercede for us. And if we really love Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam from our hearts, fully and completely from our hearts, then we will be with him in Jannah, inshaAllah. And the evidence on that is the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, where he said, a person came and asked him, a Sahabi came and asked him. He said, "Oh Rasulullah, when is the hour gonna come? When the day of judgment will happen?" And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he answered by saying, "What have you done in preparing for that day?" And the Sahabi said nothing, except that I love Allah Azza wa Jal and I love His Prophet. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he answered by saying, "Al-mar'u ma' man ahab." You are with who you have loved. So if you loved Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, you will be with him. And love is not only by words, because we can say a lot of stuff, but love is by action. And Allah Azza wa Jal said in the Quran, قُلْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهَ فَاتَّبِعُونِي يُحْبِبْكُمُ اللَّهُ. If you truly love Allah Azza wa Jal, then follow Rasulullah alayhi salatu wassalam. But how do we follow him? We follow him when we imagine Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam with us throughout our day, in whatever action that we do in this dunya. Whatever circumstance that you're in, imagine that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam is next to you. And then you can see yourself acting on the stuff that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam was pleased with and was satisfied with. But how can we know the stuff that Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasallam was pleased with and was satisfied with? It is by learning his seerah, his biography, by learning his life and his teachings, his sunnah. So if we want to start learning about his seerah and about his sunnah, there is a very good book that I recommend. It is both in Arabic and in English, and it's also translated in many different languages. It's called Al-Rahiq Al-Makhtoom, the sealed nectar. And it's written by Safiur Rahman Al-Mubarak Furi, an Indian scholar. And this book is one of the best books that it was written about the seerah in our modern day, in our modern times. And after you finish that book, because that book is speaking about the story of the seerah, it's very fun reading it, because it gives you the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as a story. And if you finish that book, you can go to another book. It's a bit harder book. But I know that with the love that you have for Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam, you will sacrifice your time to read the books. The second book is Zadul Ma'ad fi Hadi Khayr al-Ibad, the provisions of hereafter that lies in the prophetic guidelines. And it's written by Ibn al-Qayyim al-Jawziyah, rahimahullah. And that book, not only it gives you the seerah of Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam, but rather it gives you his teachings and his way of life. It tells you how he eats, how he drinks, how he sleeps, how he sits. Everything you want to know about Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam, you can find it in that book. It shows you what kind of father he was. what kind of husband he was, what kind of prophet he was, what kind of leader he was, what kind of teacher he was, what kind of warrior he was, and what kind of a commander he was. It gives you all aspects of life of Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam. It's a gem. These books are gems. And if you acquire these gems, and if you read it, you will acquire a lot of knowledge about his seerah. And at that time, you will be able to see Rasulullah in front of you. And see him when you're doing your actions. To know his sunnah. Alayhi salatu wasalam. Whenever we love someone, we follow what he does. And a small kid, usually, when he loves his father, he follows him without knowing what's right and what's wrong. Anything his father does, he does it. And that should be our love for Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam. Whatever he does, we follow him. Even though we did not see Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam in this life, we have the opportunity to see him in Jannah, inshaAllah. So try to work and sacrifice whatever you can sacrifice in order to see him in Jannah, inshaAllah. May Allah make us from them. But you still have another opportunity to see him in this dunya. And how that can be. You can see him in your dream. Because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in the authentic hadith that whoever sees me in his dream, then he has indeed seen me. So learn the way that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was, his physical appearance. I have gave you a general way of seeing Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but there is many more characteristics that I didn't mention due to the shortage of time. So when you learn about him, then you can truly love Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam. اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت وعافنا فيمن عافيت وتولنا فيمن توليت وبارك لنا فيما أعطيت وقنا شر ما قضيت فإنك تقضي ولا يقضى عليك وإنه لا يذل من واليت ولا يعز من عاديت تباركت ربنا وتعاليت يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. O Allah, please make us from the people that drink from the hawd of Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam on the day of judgment. And make us from the people that see Rasulullah and be with him, be his companions in Jannah, inshaAllah. قوموا إلى صلاتكم يرحمكم الله.